The card in hand is not a rapier, it's a wood tail.
He just discarded it.
Hello and welcome back to the European Championships 2018. We're here in the top cut and I'm joined with Matthew Bell.
Thank you, Luke. Good to be here.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. We've made it all the way to the top cut.
64 remain. Only 2 are going to be taking slots to the World Championships in Tokyo later this year.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing to see the masses of players that are now sat in front of us watching the feature match.
Yeah, and it's going to be really exciting. We have another Burning Abyss facing off against Sky Striker.
Yeah,
Trickstar.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. So just to have a quick overview before we get into the match of how each one of the decks that people have brought to the table here, shall we say, have actually done over the course of the weekend. So still, it is the #1 deck that has the highest win rate is Gem Knights.
Is that
with
actually
61%.
in the top 64?
Unsure.
We'll have to check.
Yeah, but still, over the course of all of the matches that have been played, just 68 were with Gem Knight, and it has a 61% win rate. That's pretty amazing.
Well, it's there was only 9 people that entered with it, so it only takes one person to be really successful to get a really high percentage.
Yeah, exactly. But to switch over to the more meta decks, Goki has a 57% win ratio with 1,078 games being played with that deck this weekend.
That's pretty solid. That's 57% against the whole field.
Yeah, that's huge for that amount of games. This is in order, by the way. So Gem Knight was the top, Goki is the second. Third is Sky Striker Trickstar without the Mekk Knights at 54%. And that was 2,078 games, so almost double what we had of Goki.
So it's more of a true percentage, the 54%, than what the Goki is.
Yeah, exactly. And then the Mekk Knight variant just trailing behind the regular Sky Striker Trickstar deck with a 51% win rate and about 930 games. So all very, very interesting. But for our particular feature match, we have Burning Abyss, which falls 8th. Yeah, sorry, that's 7th. Yeah, so 49% win ratio and only 465 games. So that means that a lot less people who brought Burning Abyss versus bringing those other popular decks.
But it's still pretty even at the moment in terms of its wins versus losses, and it's here in the top 64. We got about 3 Burning Abyss, I believe, in the top 64.
Exactly. And well, with those statistics, let's head it on over to Thomas Rose and Oliver Gurman for the play-by-play commentary.
Well, thank you very much, guys. I hope you at home, the watchers at home, are excited for this top 64 feature match. We picked one of the Burning Abyss players going up against one of the Sky Striker Trickstar Mekk Knight players, the special variant of Sky Striker Trickstar. However, before we want to talk about the deck, let's look at a few more statistics, because traditionally at the start of the top 64 cut, it's time to look at how everything shaped up over the course of the tournament.
And the big thing here is all going to be about conversion rates.
Yes, absolutely. Let's first look at the country breakdown, please. Not surprising here is the number of German players that made the trip to Berlin. 611, pretty impressive number of players, of course. Not quite half of the field, because we have the largest ever European Championship with 1,600 players, but still. And also remarkable second place for the United Kingdom. We've never seen that before, that so many players from the UK made the trip to mainland Europe. After day 1, this is at the start of day 2, we see that the conversion rate of Italy is through the roof, as always. Out of those 156 players that showed up, almost every second one, every second one, made it to day 2. 50% of all Italians, just amazing.
The Italians are really showing their force here.
Yeah, and Greece, who had less than 30 players, because they didn't show up in the initial stat breakdown, where Sweden was the last country that we saw with 30 players, also made it with 15 players, so they also have a conversion rate of something like 50%. Not surprising, we very often say that about the Greek players. Let's look at the top 64, and this is a gigantic upset, for me at least. Germany didn't steal the top spot here. Italy has such a high conversion rate that they managed to, even though they only sent 150 players, 150 something players, they managed to steal the top spot in the top 64. Huge accomplishment for the Italian duelists.
Yeah, a 10% conversion rate from the entry of the tournament right through to that top 64 cut is absolutely mad.
Yeah. We still have 14 Germans, seven players from the United Kingdom. That's a lot higher than what we saw in the past. So they have also improved in that regard. And 7 players from Greece is just absolutely amazing. Out of those less than 30 players, almost every 5th player or so from Greece made it, maybe even every 4th player that came from
Greece.
Greece.
At least. We don't even know how many Greek players entered the main event because they were so small on that initial breakdown. So we can only assume that it's at least a quarter of the Greek players entering the event have made it through to this top cut proportion.
The other statistic that is worth taking a look at is the deck breakdown. We talked about this a little bit. Interesting here is that in terms of relative numbers from round 1 to round 9, the start of day 2, not that much has changed. The big difference is that Goki is moving up. They are now in 2nd place, and they have put some distance between them and the following decks, because before that they were going head-to-head. The other category is shrinking, not that surprising. We've seen that before. And we also said that I think Burning Abyss was moving up in relative numbers, even though their win rate apparently is not that great. They are the guys that are successful with it. They are moving up.
I think with Burning Abyss there was a real dichotomy of some players who absolutely had put in the time and some players who just picked up the deck at the last minute and maybe weren't properly prepared for the event.
Right. And now is the big upset of the weekend. Sky Striker Trickstar is no longer, for the first time ever this weekend, the most popular deck in the field. Goki managed to sneak in, steal the top spot, and 21 players advanced with Goki to the top 64. So that's the big story of the weekend. Goki initially coming in 3rd place. After the day 1 they were 2nd place, and now in the top 64 they are actually the most represented deck in the top 64.
One of the other exciting talking points here is that other category. So you see there we have the top 8 most represented decks, but we have 5 listed under other. One of those is a deck that wasn't properly recorded at the sign-up, but the other 4 are 4 different decks, bringing us to a total of 12 decks in the main top 64.
At least. I mean, if Collins from Italy is playing something wild like Lightsworn or something, then we would have even 13 different decks. Although I doubt it, to be honest. I think Collins is very often playing something, one of the popular decks. All right, guys, with that, I think we are set for the top 64 matchup. Again, we have Dinh-Kha from Germany playing Burning Abyss, going up against Alessandro Garanzini from Italy with Sky Striker Trickstar, Mekk Knight, so many archetypes all in one deck. Let's take you to the feature match table, and they are ready to get their game on. All right, Dinh-Kha on the left. We've seen him before in a number of top cuts. I can't 100% memorize where it was, to be honest, but the name rings a bell. He did make it to the top cut before.
Yes, so Dinh-Kha, this is the 2nd Burning Abyss player that we've had on this weekend. This time, a bit of a different list. We still see the Gallus, the Star Beast, in the main deck, but no Rescue Cats this time around. So opting to cut down on the number of normal summons, but keeping in the ability to special summon those cards from his hand. And this is, again, the Sekka's Light variant of Burning Abyss, performing much more strongly right now.
Right.
And a good selection of hand traps available to him. He's got 3 Effect Veilers, 3 Droll and Lockbirds, 3 Ash Blossoms, 2 Ghost Ogres, and 2 Ghost Bell in the main, giving him a total of 13 hand traps.
Not bad. Do you agree with this build?
Yeah, I think this is really solid. So I myself chose to play Rescue Cat when I built the deck, but I can completely get behind not wanting them as extra normal summons. The Gallus was a card that I often kept in even when I sided out the Rescue Cat, so I know that it works well by itself, and we're going to see exactly what the deck can do here.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we get to see that. I found out Dinh-Kha is from Berlin, so he's got the hometown advantage. And he did advance to the top 8 of an event in Germany. I'm just not... That is the LLDS finals.
Okay.
The local legend dueling series. I'm not 100% sure if that's correct. But there was a little final for that tournament, and he was one of the 8 players that made it. So that's why I might remember him.
So here we see Dinh-Kha starting with a very strong hand. He's able to get the Beatrice and use the Scam effect in the grave at the end of the turn. so he'll be able to find his Fairy Tale Snow nice and quickly and have a follow-up play for the normal summon next turn.
All right. So back to Alessandro Garanzini, who's got a Scapegoat, a Sky Striker Mekk Hornet Drones, Terraforming Trickstar Light Stage, and Mekk Knight Blue Sky, together with his Engage.
Yeah, the Droll and Lockbird going to be coming down here, and there's no Called by the Grave to prevent that.
So far, so good for Dinh-Kha.
So that doesn't leave much in hand for Alessandro that can really be used for full effect here. So the Mekk Knight Blue Sky won't be able to take a search. The Light Stage doesn't do anything. Terraforming doesn't do anything. Only the Widow Anchor remains, really.
It's quite interesting how that one card can completely, or almost completely, shut down the deck on its own. At least that opening hand.
Yeah. I mean, Droll and Lockbird is a huge part of the format right now, and I think it's one of the main reasons why we see a lot of decks main decking the triple Called by the Grave, just because they can't afford to have that happen to them in turn one.
Right. So when we did the coverage for the German Nationals, I messed up the name and said half of the name in German and half of the name in English. It was one of the and the weird thing is, it actually made sense in a very awkward way. So ever since, I have very huge troubles getting that wrong name out of my head again.
Okay, so in the end phase, we're going to see the effect of Beatrice coming down here. I'm surprised that he detaches the Dante rather than getting in a free Scarm search.
He's saving it for later for some reason.
I'm not sure why you would, but perhaps he has his reasonings.
Oh,
if he detaches the Scarm, he could search for his Seer and revive the Dante when that gets detached on the next turn, but...
by the way, the chat, of course, is asking, hey, guys, you told us to send the energy. That worked out pretty well. Marcello Barberi is in the top 64, and he's completing his Havoc mission this weekend. He's wreaking havoc at the European Championship again. He wants to go to Worlds again, and since he's not the points leader, that means he needs to advance to the finals. He's on it. He's on it, guys. Just keep sending your energy, please. Is the little note that he sneaked under my table prior to the match.
I think I've been outdone by Dinh-Kha on the stream here. He couldn't have sent the Scarm then, because he had the Droll and Lockbird in hand.
Oh yeah, he's under Droll. Yeah, the chat, of course, immediately caught
Chat
that.
always finds things faster than we can anyway.
The chat knows the way. That is. Thank you guys for pointing that out. So little corrections are in order, and nothing that he did wrong here.
Using that extra zone made available by Kagari. So detaching the Calcab and targeting one will enable two of these back rows to be disabled.
Mm-hmm. Becomes Scapegoat. That's always good to pop that card before the end phase.
Yeah, this allowing the tokens to be dealt with on Dinh-Kha's own terms rather than having to deal with the fallout.
That might be quite big. I mean, there's still some searching going on with Alessandro's hand here with the Light Stage and Terraforming. There's an Effect Veiler waiting, however, in Dinh-Kha Bui's hand, which he can use very likely to great effect here to just make sure that he's gonna have total control over that game here.
Yeah. So Dinh-Kha just checks the number of spell cards in grave to make sure that the attack of Kagari is lower than Beatrice. Although, having said that, it's not necessarily the worst thing if your Beatrice does die to battle, if it's destroyed by battle or your opponent's card effects, but it doesn't matter whose attack it is if it's by battle. It will then summon the Pilgrim out from his extra deck, and there are very, very few outs to Dante Pilgrim in the Trickstar Sky Striker deck.
Maybe that's something he's aiming for here.
Yes, certainly if we see the Trickstar side of the deck coming out for Alessandro, Purple Nightfall can be a real liability. It needs to be able to get itself off the board when there's a Beatrice on the other side, or the two will crash, which is the optimal situation for the Burning Abyss player.
Yeah. But it's very fair to assume that Alessandro is aware of that interaction. So far, flawless execution from the Burning Abyss player here.
Yeah.
He
Both
knows.
players seem to be playing this one very well for the moment.
Yeah, and Alessandro also seems like he knows what's coming and what he has to deal with, like judging by his facial expressions here. He doesn't seem super happy, but that is because he's not in the most advantageous position here. So...
And here we see that Mekk Knight side of the deck coming out. It's likely that we'll have the search for... Oh, we see another Purple Nightfall. I was thinking that we might see Indigo Eclipse coming down there with Purple Nightfall already being in hand. Does he play? No. So for Alessandro here, his 4-card Mekk Knight package is 2 Blue Sky and 2 Purple Nightfall.
Right.
No Indigo Eclipse. Can be a bit of a disadvantage. It means that if you summon your Blue Sky into a column with 2 opponents' cards, you cannot activate the effect because you need to search for precisely the number of cards in the opponent's column that it points to. So he will only ever be able to summon it into a column with 1 opponent's card.
All right. He's gonna be able to play around that restriction very easily, right?
Yeah, for the most part, it's super simple, especially in a matchup like this where there will be no back rows set. It's just something that you need to be aware of. You don't want to get caught out wanting to use your Blue Sky effect and then realize that you can't activate it because you don't have enough targets in deck to legally resolve the search.
It's definitely not going to be a nice feeling, yeah. All right.
So Dinh-Kha just holding out on the effect veiler there, realizing that Cerberus not the most impactful here. Even with that draw, he'd rather save it for something more powerful.
What could that be?
Well, I'm not sure. Dinh-Kha will certainly be worried about the possibility of a Borreload Dragon here, and I'm not sure what his plan is to go up against that. Obviously, Link Monsters, completely unaffected by Fairy Tale Snow, which is a piece hiding in his graveyard. Alessandro considers the Candina, but instead decides to go for the Light Stage first, probably getting himself a Licorice to play around the Effect Veiler.
Do you think he's going to see the Effect Veiler coming, or is it just the ideal play regardless?
Well, it's certainly the safe play, and he'll know that in a Sekka's Light variant of Burning Abyss, there are loads of hand traps. So Effect Veiler is a card that, whilst we don't see it everywhere in the meta, could be very relevant for this matchup. And now with Trickstar Reincarnation being added to hand for Alessandro, Dinh-Kha needs to be very careful how he plays the rest of this game.
Yes.
At any point where he has his Seer in hand, he can risk losing his main recursion.
Oof. That's not going to be easy. Pretty good position that Alessandro Garanzini put himself in, especially after that opening where we were like, this is pretty strong for Dinh-Kha Bui. Looks pretty what the Burning Abyss deck is trying to do for the most part.
Which monsters did Dinh-Kha just link into that unicorn?
The last few cards in his graveyard.
No, in Alessandro's graveyard.
In Alessandro's graveyard, yeah, no problem. We had a Candina and a Link Spider.
I don't think that makes a Link 3. Candina and Link Spider?
Didn't he?
For a Link 3?
I think he
was
first...
the token as well?
I think he first went with another Link monster, which might not even show up in the graveyard right now. But we can, of course, ask about that.
Was the token used for that summon, or was the token used for the Link Spider? I may have just missed something here.
Right. Yeah, he did use a token on top of the other things, is what the chat is pointing out.
Okay. So that will have been a fine set of materials for the unicorn. But at this point, the Beatrice is going to be taken in attack position. It'll deal a little bit of damage, but if Dinh-Kha Bui is able to summon something that will crash with it in battle, he can still get that Pilgrim out to his side of the field.
Does it need to be under his control, or does it not matter?
It may need to be in his possession.
Yeah.
I think is the phrase used on the card, so that might not work.
It was a Link, a Spider token, and a Candina. Is what our judges are telling us here.
That's all okay then. And I think we have to give it to Teon. He's been absolutely on point with the rulings.
Yes, he has been. Yeah, what was the hashtag? Toyn's got this? No, that was something else. He's like, people are ganging up on him in the feature match area, and so far he's been fighting them off rather successfully. It was hashtag Toyn is a boss. Here we go. If this card in your possession is destroyed by your opponent's card and sent to your graveyard, so it wouldn't trigger.
Yes, it has to be in your possession even when destroyed by battle.
So that is good to know. And our judge is having a good time watching this match, apparently. So Dinh-Kha is suddenly staring down a gigantic Borreload Dragon. Not all that much he can do here, it seems. How's he going to fight back into this?
I'm not quite sure. The draw of the Ash Blossom possibly could have been used for a link play there.
Yeah, and there's the Scapegoat. Oof, with a Borreload already on the field and then the Scapegoat. That cannot make Dinh-Kha feel happy about this whole thing.
Certainly not. In his position, there was a part of me that wonders whether a normal summon of the Ash Blossom to make a link to, and just to enable a discard of the Graph, summon Seer, Seer dies immediately and wall up on a Dante could have been more effective. With the Phantom Skyblaster draw there for Alessandro is going to be huge here. I don't see any way that Dinh-Kha is living the turn.
Yeah, just tokening it up here after that Scapegoat. Now he brings back the tokens. That's just so much advantage that he's amassing here. I think he might be running out of extra deck monsters eventually.
I expect we'll see a Link 1 and then a Nightmare Goblin coming down here. Although even with Goblin, there's no card that would be relevant to discard from hand, so no huge benefit gained. Discarding your Candina to have an extra summon doesn't do much if you don't have a Candina left to summon.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like the best plan.
So he can discard it to draw one, and maybe he will be able to use it.
Yeah, I think he's going to come up with a plan B. That sounds a bit more promising.
So the card drawn was a Hornet Drones. Not much use right now.
Yeah, certainly not. With so many monster zones being blocked, this card has it's not been deader than this in a while.
Do we see any Trickstar Reincarnation engraved for Alessandro at this point?
Gonna check.
There was one previously, but I know it was banished. I didn't catch if there was a second copy.
No, the only Trickstar cards we see there is a Candina, a Licorice, and a Light Stage.
Okay, so at this point, Alessandro plays only with the cards that we see on the field.
Well, that's fair. But I think it doesn't matter in the end, because the cards on the field are convincing enough for Dinh-Kha to shuffle up and access his side deck, because we're going to game 2 with Alessandro Garanzini taking game 1.
Okay, so I think we can expect Dinh-Kha to play first here. What in his side deck do we think is going to be coming in?
Yeah, I'm just looking at those hand traps again. He's got the Ghost Reaper and Winter Cherries. Yeah.
There's a chance that we may see that with the Sky Striker Aces in his extra deck. He could bring in those Ghost Reapers to try and take out that Kagari and prevent the recycling of the Sky Striker maneuver cards.
Definitely be surprising. It's not something that you see coming as an opponent usually.
And he also here has access to both 2 copies each of Majesty's Fiend and Vanity's Fiend.
I think those are cards that he definitely wants to add to his main deck here.
Particularly along with Soravis, the Ancient and Ascended, also in his side deck. He can bring those in, have them as floodgate walls that will sit on the board, And even if Alessandro is able to open up with that Sky Striker Mobilize Engage to try and search for his Widow Anchor, Sorevis can prevent that change of possession and the negation.
Yeah, so he's got quite a few options against this particular deck, which is interesting. That, I mean, the main deck was already designed to build Sky Striker Trickstar, wasn't it?
Yeah, on the other side of things, for Alessandro, the side deck doesn't look like it's necessarily tuned for Burning Abyss, which is completely understandable.
Right.
There's the Ghost Reaper and Winter Cherries again, but no useful targets for countering the Burning Abyss strategy. Mind Control, Night Beam, Infinite Impermanence, and Vanity's Fiend. Vanity's Fiend would be a very strong choice if Alessandro were playing first, but perhaps not here. The Infinite Impermanence, if he's scared of the Vanity's Fiend or Majesty's Fiend, or the potential for an Naturia Beast. Alessandro has seen the Gallus being milled, so he might expect that Naturia Beast could be coming down. Night Beam, of course, won't be coming in. We know that there won't be traps set for Dinh-Kha Bui.
Of course, yeah. Okay, so it's going to be interesting. It looks like Dinh-Kha Bui is certainly the one who is better prepared for this particular matchup, not surprisingly. Sky Striker Trickstar, after all, is the one deck with that huge target on his head. And so far, the Gookie decks have taken aim at it and started to reduce the numbers.
Yeah, the Gookie decks have been really pushing through. And I said at the start of the tournament that it's a much bigger deck and it's much harder to play well than it is to pick up a pile of Trickstar Sky Striker cards. So it may be a favorite of some of the more advanced players in the tournament that they would rather be playing a deck with a higher ceiling, with more plays available to it. And those are the types of players that are more likely to be making their way through to this knockout stage.
Right, again, we see Dante coming down on the very first turn. There's a hand trap waiting in Dinh-Kha Bui's hand with the Effect Veiler. He is, however, missing the Droll and Lockbird that was pretty good last game, even though he didn't end up winning it. Stripping his opponent of his Surges. Speaking of Surges, there are not that many in the opening hand of Alessandro Garanzini. I was completely expecting to see a Light Stage or something like that.
There are still a fair few in there. The Mekk Knight Blue Sky and the Trickstar Candina, both strong searching cards. Mind Control will be an interesting one on the Beatrice here. He is able to take control of that monster and then use it for a Link Summon to deny the effect to summon from the extra deck. End phase Scarm resolving here. I'm surprised that Alessandro didn't choose to use the Ash Blossom in his hand. Perhaps he just wants to guarantee that he can prevent the Beatrice effect on his own turn.
Just giving him more options and not fearing his opponent having more options, I guess. Alessandro is shuffling his hand quite quickly. So both of these players are still very hard to read, to be honest. They both seem like they're somewhat relaxed in this match. But I don't think they're going to be cracking under the pressure.
So the set there likely to be Mind Control, allowing the summon of Blue Sky, searching for that purple Nightfall. At this point, Garanzini may choose to set the Hornet drones behind his own Kagari, enabling the purple Nightfall to also be special summoned from the hand.
So that would be one possible play. It's going to put him put a lot of pressure on the board here. Although life points are mostly trivial, as we learned earlier.
If you have one, you have enough. Although, having said that, against a Trickstar player, one is probably not enough because you will just die to the effect of Licorice.
It should be more like 601 or something like that. Then you're pretty safe. Not 100%, but pretty.
So Alessandro seemingly foregoing the opportunity to summon his purple Nightfall just yet. He'll need to clear out some tokens to make space.
Yeah, it's not looking all that promising. Here's an Effect Veiler, which is...
Effect Veiler prevents 3 additional link materials from hitting the board. But now the Purple Nightfall, the zone between Mind Control and Beatrice, wide open for the summon.
But now he has Light and Dark in his grave, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, that's correct. The Blackluster Soldier in hand for Dinh-Kha, absolutely live. And the effect of Beatrice hasn't yet been used. It'll be interesting to see whether the Ash Blossom in hand for Alessandro is saved to negate the Tour Guide that we know Dinh-Kha is holding on to, or if it will be used to negate this effect here. Critically, Dinh-Kha has just detached a Seer from under his Beatrice, so that even if the Ash Blossom is used here, he can still use that effect of Seer, targeting Farfa in grave, bringing it out to take some materials off the field of his opponent.
So he definitely has some options here.
Chooses instead to get Graph. This will likely summon a new copy of Farfa from the deck. It immediately hits the field and then is destroyed, and that will just take away the option to access Borreload.
Yeah, a card that we basically lost against in the last duel, so he's very likely to be... Yeah, I don't want to see that again anymore.
I can only assume that the Space Insulator will be banished here. Just Candina remains in hand for Alessandro, and Dinh-Kha Bui has been so effective at taking away materials from the board that the Mind Control will need to be flipped up here as the out to the Beatrice.
So we have 17 minutes remaining in that thriller, really, between Dinh-Kha Bui and Alessandro Garanzini. At the moment, it's looking quite well for Alessandro Garanzini, but there's still an Beatrice standing in his way.
There's a Beatrice standing in the way, and we know that the 2 cards in hand for Dinh-Kha are 2 of the most impactful cards in his entire deck. So it's much too early to write him out of this match.
So Beatrice switching sides.
Attention Dragon Duelists.
It would take every monster for Alessandro if he wants to end on a Borreload, and if he chose to make that play, he would end up losing out to the DDD Stone King Darius on Dinh-Kha's turn.
So you think it's somewhat unlikely that he's going to go for that?
Yes, typically Borreload is a very strong card when playing against the Burning Abyss deck, but with DDD Stone King Darius, there is a 1 card out through use of Tour Guide.
Oof. Man, if you're Burning Abyss fan, you're going to be shaking a little bit here. How about you?
I think this is likely to be going to a Game 3.
Okay, so you're not stressed at all.
I mean, even if it does go to a Game 3, obviously I'm hoping that Burning Abyss can win it, but it leaves Dinh-Kha in a position where he would have to be playing second in Game 3 into a deck that we know is side-decking the Vanities Fiends, and I don't know if Dinh-Kha has many outs to a turn 1 Vanities Fiend.
Right. So he would then have to hope that Alessandro Garanzini is not drawing into the card. And yeah, we did point it out. We have 2 more Burning Abyss players in the top cut.
I believe there were a total of 4 Burning Abyss players.
4, yeah. I'm just gonna.
I think alongside Dinosaurs, they were the 3rd and 4th most represented, possibly 4th and 5th.
Just checking that. Here's one Burning Abyss player, Marcel Leuke. Yeah, it's 4 in total. I'm just going over the players. It's Marcel Leuke, who is from Belgium, playing Burning Abyss.
There was an Austrian player.
Yeah, there's the former national champion from Austria, Sebastian Moser. That is his name. Dinh-Kha Bui, who we see right now, and then there should be one more Burning Abyss player. Who's that? It's Fabio Pieracchioli. Wahrscheinlich. Likely. That could be the name. I'm not 100% sure.
Perhaps after the match we'll go over to Matt and he can correct our pronunciations.
Yeah, that sounds like a good plan. That should help. Definitely help. and get us sorted for that next feature match then. Possible feature match, if we end up featuring him. All right.
Alessandro has really made some strong plays coming out of that to get himself into this position where he will now be able to summon the Candina, search himself a reincarnation, and strip that tour guide out from the hand.
It sounds like a pretty good play.
I expect we'll see the reincarnation snap activation on the draw phase, leaving only a top-decked Ash Blossom keeping the hand for Dinh-Kha Bui.
Doesn't seem like he's going for it.
What was the draw for turn?
The draw for turn is a Sekka slide.
That's a real shame for Dinh-Kha. His hand was absolutely fantastic before it got ripped apart. Let's see what he draws with those 4 new cards. Critically, he did make the safe play and return the Graph, not the Seer, from his graveyard to hand. Just waiting on an update for the cards in hand of Dinh-Kha.
Yeah, maybe if we reboot the app, try that and see if that happens. That works.
I think we've just got an update. There's 2 copies of Sekka's Light, Drollon Lockbird and Gallus, but that will have been before the resolution of that Sekka's Light we just saw. So there'll be 2 new cards and 1 less Sekka's Light.
Yeah, so still Alessandro Garanzini sitting in that position, in that driver's seat, as I like to call it very often. He, so far, is the one person deciding the pace of the game. And I'm going to be surprised if, like you say, that Dinh-Kha Bui can still turn this around somewhat easily even.
There are definitely plays which could see Dinh-Kha back in control of this match, but right now it is the pressure on him to get back to that position. So we're struggling without information on the cards that the players have. We can assume that he has at least 1 Sekka's Light and Gallus and Drollon Lockbird remaining in hand at this point.
Yeah, just trying to bring the cards back.
There should be a total of 5 cards.
Here we go. Got them back.
Okay, the Fairy Tale Snow is a very interesting pickup there. He may opt to use that along with Gallus to make a link play. No, instead just normal summon and attack.
Well, it's one of those cards that you don't mind losing so much because you can just bring it back eventually. But still we don't get to see that often as a normal summon, to be honest.
Yeah, there were some possibilities for other plays that could have been made. I don't know if he's activated yet the effect of Sekka's Light in his graveyard, which of course could be banished to swap one of the cards in his hand out for a new draw.
It sounds like a plan to me.
He may have already done that in the moment that we waited there for an update to the information on cards in hand.
Just have 1 Sekka's Light in the graveyard still, at least according to the app.
And here we see Purple Nightfall returning to the field for Alessandro. He is no longer able to use the effect to banish it. I understand that both copies of Mekk Knight Blue Sky have been removed from his deck. Will Dinh-Kha Bui choose to take this 3000 damage, or does he want to wall up with Snow? It's a really tough decision here. If he uses it to block this damage, he keeps a higher life total, but he'll have far fewer cards in graveyard left to bring back that Snow for a more offensive play on his own turn.
Yeah, it's all about that question. When do you need those life points? When can you actually abandon all hope and just be like, yeah, I'm just going to survive into the next run somehow? And I'm going to save that snow.
It looks like he appears to just be wanting to tank the damage and play through. What's the set in play for Alessandro?
He has infinite impermanence.
Okay,
just
so
sent to his field.
that could prove really, really big here. If Dinh-Kha Bui tries to go to his battle phase and use something like a Dante to attack, negating that effect after the attack has been declared could completely change the course of that battle and force life points being lost in a situation where he wasn't expecting to do so. The Fairy Tale Snow in Graveyard might be useful to pushing through an effect under that infinite impermanence. If you banish the target before the impermanence resolves, I understand that the initial activated effect at Chainlink 1 will resolve unimpeded.
This looks really promising for Dinh-Kha Bui with all of those cards in hand. With some hand traps as well on top of the other things he has.
I don't believe that the cards in hand information that we have is currently accurate. It still says that there is a Fairy Tale Snow and a Sekka's Light in hand for Dinh-Kha Bui, and those have both left the hand some time ago.
So you're saying we're still not up to date?
I think we are considerably behind. That's first damage this game for Dinh-Kha Bui, sending Blackluster Soldier for the effect of Gallus the Starbeast. That will be 1600 damage, really taking a chink away from Alessandro. But he needs to start making some big plays behind it. He can access his link plays. If we look through the extra deck for Dinh-Kha Bui here, he has Nightmare's Phoenix and Unicorn. One Nightmare Mermaid, but I don't see any Nightmare Cerberus, which might be holding him back a bit here.
Yeah, we're trying to get the cards back up to speed.
He may be considering normal summoning an Ash Blossom from hand to be able to make a rank 3 play, though. Something like a Leviair could access the cards that he lost to Reincarnation 2 turns prior.
So even without those extra cards, you feel like he's well positioned here.
The game is very much open at this point. With so few cards in play, every top deck is of huge importance. I think we might be seeing a link too for the Nightmare Phoenix to try and take out that one set card Alessandro has.
That infinite impermanence. Or is that card already gone?
The infinite impermanence is still set, so...
it's in the middle. Somewhat hard to make out with the dark sleeves, actually.
Yes. Nightmare Phoenix being activated in a position co-linked to the Topologic Dragon there. Saravis coming down to negate that infinite impermanence and force through the draw.
Nice.
Topologic Dragon will resolve, destroying both Phoenix and the set card.
Well, all of a sudden, Dinh-Kha Bui is back in business. Oh, well, not maybe all of a sudden. He worked for that really hard, in fact. And piece by piece, he's putting the puzzle together.
Yes. What remains to be seen is whether the cards remaining in hand for Dinh-Kha Bui will be able to contest the board. I think his life points are actually a significant chunk lower than what we're displaying here. I don't know for certain, but I have a feeling there was a connected attack for 3000 with the Topologic Bomber Dragon. But that could be another one where I haven't quite kept up with what's happening in the game.
Yeah, we have some technical difficulties at the moment with our app not being 100% up to speed with the game. And it's making our life a little bit easier. We're going to try and have it fixed very soon so we can give you complete information as you're used to. I think we're back with that part at least. I can see some cards on the table again for Alessandro in the app. You can see 2 now. We're just waiting for the information from Dinh-Kha Bui's side of the field to load in. So, although we have a pretty good understanding of what he's holding on to at the moment.
Yeah, but he doesn't appear to be in a strong position. He's just playing cards one by one. He had to set the Ash Blossom to stall out some extra life points. What's left in his extra deck at this point? We might see him attempting to use the effect of Levier here. There's not a lot by way of link plays remaining. Underclock is available to him.
It seems like the life points are just updated for
Okay.
Dinh-Kha.
And there's the Vanity's Fiend coming down. That could be huge.
Yeah, just when he was on the brink of defeat, he suddenly finds an answer.
We didn't even see that one coming without the information of the cards in hand, but
are the life points correct for Alessandro? Does he need to go all the way with those 8,000?
Alessandro has definitely lost some life points. There was a Gallus activation earlier in the game.
So now there's an attack, there's a snow, but
The snow cannot be used.
Cannot be used. We got the Vanities. Basically locked himself out of his own game here. And in the end, that gives Alessandro Garanzini a perfect road to victory. And he didn't hesitate there. He saw his opportunity and made good with it.
Yeah, he found his one copy of Trickstar Lilybell right at the top of the deck when he needed.
Wow, talk about a top deck.
Yeah.
It looked like Dinh-Kha was stabilizing, even though he lost a couple of life points, that he was finally getting back into that game. And then it could have been a huge comeback story. In the end, it wasn't meant to be, so that means those 4 Burning Abyss players are down to 3 at least. We don't have the results in of the other guys, but chances are pretty good that we have another Burning Abyss player remaining in the field. Which should make you happy, right?
Yeah, of course. I love to see the deck.
Yeah, and but we did. Dinh-Kha made the most of his options.
Yeah.
It wasn't like we saw any place where we were like, okay, I think he should have done this differently.
I think both players were playing very well in that match, and that's always fun to see.
Yeah, and after such a long day, yesterday and this morning, I mean, we're already here for 5 hours already. This is where fatigue is setting in for some of these players. Probably not some of the other guys that we know. We can try and bring up the top 64 pairings for you guys, because we didn't have the time prior to the round. So these are the first few tables in the top 64, and there you can see all the guys that we interviewed. Tom Feargoods, Marcello Barberi, they are still very much in competition, although Tom Feargoods with his Gookie deck is going up against Sebastian Moser from Austria with Burning Abyss.
Now, I think that match does actually favor the Gookie player, so this might be the end of the line for Sebastian Moser. Obviously, I'm hoping to see more Burning Abyss myself, but it's not looking favorable by the matchup.
Then if we move further down, we have Collins Amicame from Italy with an unknown deck. Might just be playing Gookie like most of the famous players. He's going up against Tetsu Watanabe, which sounds like an Japanese name, in fact, but he is also listed as an Italian player. Then we got Luke Parks and Cormac Adams, who we also interviewed prior to the top 64. Moving further down, so you can see a few more names that are in the top 64. We got these guys here. Oskar Kleinoschek with Sky Striker Trickstar against Michel Stefani. Federico Sopini is still in competition, going up against Marcel Leuke, another Burning Abyss player. Simon Franke, Marco Perico, we featured him before with his World Chalice deck.
Yeah, and playing up against dinosaurs in the top 64, that won't be a matchup that he's necessarily well prepared for.
Yeah, and how unlikely is that? 2 Swedish players have to meet in the top 64. The good news, of course, Sweden will still be represented in the top 32, but I don't think that's what they were signing up for at the start of the day. Then we got Eriko Speck, another Greek player, going up against Jake Quincy. Michael Forner is playing one of the interesting decks, the Hero deck with 60 cards. We just saw Dinh-Kha, his match against Alessandro Garanzini. Chantari is back, or Kantari is back, with going up against Tom Payne, another player we interviewed. And the list goes on and on. Some of the other players that we could bring up here is Christopher Nielsen is still in. We featured him. Samir Bashar is still in. Joshua Schmidt is still in. And Severin Frank, who we featured with his dinosaur deck, is also still in competition. with that, guys, you have a bit of an overview of what is happening in the top 64. It's a bit too early to tell what's happening in the top 32, but we're going to be back with that. Before that, it's time to analyze the top 64 match some more. So let's head over to Luke and Matt.
Thank you very much, Ollie and Thomas. Yes, we are back here on the desk. Thomas, well, if you're still listening, you are completely right. As far as the stats are concerned, the Goki versus Burning Abyss matchup is not that great.
It's dreadful.
Yeah.
35%.
Yeah, so you only win 35% of the time against Goki with that deck. So
how many matches was that played across?
Only 55, so not all that many, but still that's fairly...
More than what I do in a day?
Yeah, exactly. More than you're going to do in, like, you know, a month's worth of tournaments, most likely. As for the Burning Abyss deck in general, it has seen a 49% win rate over the course of the tournament. So
almost bang on. Just a little bit under the 50 mark.
Yeah, not amazing.
How was it against the Mekk Knight deck? Was it favored or was it at a disadvantage?
It was at that's invoked. We don't want to talk about invoked. It was pretty reasonable advantage, 3.5%. That's quite big in terms of the percentage win rates, considering the number of games we've had for all of the decks.
Yeah, I gotta hand it to Alessandro. I didn't feel like there was a part where he lost control of the game up until the very end part with the Vanity's Fiend.
Yeah.
In game 2, gets summoned. It almost felt like the whole time Alessandro is like, okay, I've got Borderlay Dragon, I know what I'm doing. I got Topological Bomber Dragon, I know what I'm doing. It wasn't until that point, and then you're like, oh, he might have actually just like lost the control of the game, and then it's Lilybell off the top. Oh, no worries. I've got enough to get me there.
Yeah, exactly.
But that was an excellent game, though. That was with the impermanence and dodging it with the Fairy Tale Snow. There was a lot of interaction there, and Alessandro navigating that one and just being able to squeak out a win after he'd already tied everything up. Yeah,
a lot of really kind of niche interactions went on in that game. I think that both players played really well.
Yeah, a very long pair of games, though, right? We were never going to see a game 3. Not really.
No, exactly. No, I think we were going to end up in some kind of messy end of match procedure if it did get there because of the Trickstar. Trickstars have got quite a good...
they got a couple of cards that help them out in that particular situation.
Yeah, exactly. Something that we've not even spoke about that's been on the stream for a number of hours now is...
Oh, these guys?
Is these guys, yeah.
Oh, our new Funkos. Yeah, these are super cool. We've got, of the classic characters, Yugi, Seto Kaiba, Blue Eyes White Dragon, and Dark Magician Girl.
Yeah. Which one's your favorite?
Yeah, for me... Oh, that's a difficult one. Let's take a look. I think I like Yugi, to be honest. Like, the Blue Eyes is cool and all that. I don't know. I just think I kind of like Yugi because they got his hair right.
Yeah. Well, so I completely agree about Yugi, but for a different reason. Is that I think the pose that he's got where he's holding a card, I feel like they absolutely nailed that. Like, the detail on the singular card.
I'll be honest. He looks like he's handing over a business card. Here's my card.
That's perfect. Yeah.
Call me.
Yeah, exactly. Kaiba is doing the same, but I think that the Yugi one looks even cooler because obviously it's got the puzzle as well. But to be honest, I like them all because they all look really cool.
They're pretty cool. Good things to have on your desk.
Yeah, exactly. So we were the final match for the top 64. So out of the hundreds of duelists we had over this weekend, we're now down to just 32.
Every round we're going to be losing half of them until we're left with just 2 remaining, and it's looking pretty strong that it might be Goki getting into those final stages.
Yeah.
We're down 1 more BA.
Yeah. Your fingers are going to
left.
get tired. Keep doing this every round.
It doesn't quite work for me. I do this and somehow my workload doubles. So
that's no good.
So I need to figure out how to sort out my emails more efficiently than trying this. But
yeah, well, with that thought, we'll be right back with the top 32 of the European Championships 2018. Catch you guys soon.